Hello, and welcome to the My Old Car video log, where I document how I maintain, repair, and occasionally make upgrades to my 1974 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's been my daily driver since 1984. With dedication and tenacity, you too can make your first car your forever car and drive it forever.
Hey everyone. In a previous video, I talked about repairing like a broken broken GM clocks. And one of the things I mentioned is that GM used two different types of clocks for their cars. And here I have an actual real-world example. Let me just take a look. They're both identical. These clocks are for the 1968 Cadillac. They're also seen in the 1967 Cadillac. They use the exact same instrument panels in both of those cars. Now, as you can see, they're both the same. They look the same, and they even have the same sort of a mounting pattern with the two holes right there. As you can see, two holes right there. So they look the same, but they're not the same. You take a look at this one here first, and then this one. Now this will be all nice and steady. Right off the bat, you can see that the connector for this is here, and the connector on this one. So you could say that this is, well, sitting in the car would be like this. So the 6 o'clock for one, and at the 9 o'clock position for the other. That is because, I said before, and you can't really see these all too well. Let's see here. I'm going to try and show this, get this up to the, oh, there we go. And you can barely see that right here it says Borg. So this is the Borg clock. And then this one here, oh gosh, this one's even harder to see. But trust me on this when I say, I'll try and get this to stabilize, but trust me on this when I say that this is a general Time Corp or Westclox movement. Any other things that make it more striking or easily to identify that these are different is this clock has 3 points at which the face attaches to the movement, whereas the Borg clock has 4 points where the face attaches to the movement. Now let's open these up. Okay, so I suppose it would help if I took this nut off. Now, here you can see the typical Westclox or Time Corp movement. Has the dual wound solenoid, which is, that's like the most striking feature. Now let's take a look at the Borg. And here we see that there is a single wound solenoid. Now, one thing to note of the many things, well, actually just the simplest thing to note is none of these parts are compatible with any of these parts. They are made completely different, and they're just not even, they're nowhere near being compatible with each other. Even the winding correction or the speed correction mechanism, the gears, as you can see, the whole thing is just a completely different mechanism. And of course the cases don't fit in with each other. So this has to go back into the Borg case. And of course that goes back into the Westclox case. They both do what they're supposed to do. They do it well. But they, other than being fitted for different GM applications, they are completely incompatible with each other. Oh, there is one other thing I should note. The nut does fit on, they both use the same size nut. Well, they're supposed to. Come on. There we go. They both use the same size nut on the connection terminal. Now, one of the things that I mentioned in my previous video is what causes these clocks to stop working. My guess, my estimation would be about 90% of the time is that these solenoid windings, they fry. And this, just to recap, this is what it looks like when they get cooked. Dude, it's like totally obvious. It's like, yeah, these are fried. This is no longer going to be working. You can see all the smoke and carbon deposits and stuff from when it got cooked. So the easiest way to deal with this is to obviously prevent it from happening in the first place. And the method that I use to prevent these things from getting cooked in the first place is to install an inline fuse. Now, in the case of the Cadillac, what I do is I get a inline fuse holder. And what I'm going to do with this is for the ATC style fuse, or the blade fuses. And so what I'll do with this is I'm going to take each end, I'm going to put these eye connectors on each end of that. So obviously, one of these will go here and then get, bolted or screwed down with the nut. And for the other end, I have a small screw with a little nut. Come on, let's see. There we go. I have a small screw with a little nut. And this end is what will connect the other connector onto the circuit board in the car or in the back of the dash. Now, in the case of like my Chevrolet Monte Carlo, there's a different kind of a connector. This is an inline. Actually, let me open this thing up. Actually, I haven't even opened this up yet. This is an inline connector. Ah, dang it. I might have to reshoot this. Anyway, and the way this works is you cut the wire in half, you put each half into here, and then you fold this over so that way the wire, you fold this over. So you put this in here, cut the wire in half, or you just cut the wire, and you put each end of the wire in this, and then you fold this over until the wire gets automatically stripped and then put into, and then the contact is made. And then right here, in here is where the blade fuse goes in. And that is the easiest way I have found to add an inline fuse into a circuit that uses a hard wire with a plug as opposed to a circuit board. And the fuse that I've been using is a 2 amp blade fuse. See, got the number 2 on there. This is a 2 amp. And they are gray in color. I know all the fuses are like different colors, but I've seen, there are green, red, blue, yellow, and I think the reds are like 5 amps, or blues are 10s, or something like that. I don't know. I looked that up when I need it. In any case, but these are 2 amps. And then they go, once this is all put together, you know, this just slips into there, and you know, it makes contact with this, so that way, you know, everything, so that way, you know, circuit's closed and the clock runs. And then if for whatever reason the connectors or the terminals inside the clock, okay, let's do it with this one. Say for whatever reason, you know, the terminals, here we are, because you can see this one way better. So on the Borg, for instance, when these connectors, when the terminals, there we go. So when these points make contact, they're only supposed to make a contact for just a split second, just a moment, to energize the solenoid, which then causes it to move in. And then in this case, it'll do this. When the solenoid energizes, it brings this really close, and it causes the spring to rewind just a little bit. And so, but if this doesn't disconnect, well then the solenoid stays energized, will overheat and fry, and now you've got a clock that doesn't work. Well, to prevent that, putting this inline fuse, this little 2 amp fuse, the fuse will go before the clock gets cooked. So anyway, that's the best way I found to prevent these things from burning up. So all right, let's get started with this then, shall we? Yeah, it's kind of cool how the supplier already has these set to be pulled. I guess you could say they're already kind of stripped. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Now I'm going to orient this to where the nut, it would be, there we go, where the nut would be on this side. So that way, you know, once you got considered all the thickness and so I'm going to orient it this way. And in order to do that, make sure that this is there we go. Now one thing you'll note, I did not put a shrink tubing over this because this is going to be inside. This is never going to be exposed to any kind of environment other than the inside of the car. You know, no rain, no sun, nothing like that. So you know, there's no justifiable reason to put this on here, because let's say I were to prepare this for being outdoors, and this would be the only thing that would survive after 150 years. That's like the rest of the car would be in pretty bad shape, but by golly, this connector, oh yeah, it's bitching. So, all right, do the same thing on this side. Alrighty, next. Let's get ourselves a fuse in there. There we are, bitchin'. And I think I'll use the Borg clock this time around. So now with this all tucked in, everything like that, and I'm going to leave this a little loose just so I can adjust these wires as I see fit once I get it inside the dash. So we are ready to rock and roll.
If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, please be sure to click the like button. Now if you'll excuse me, I think it's time for a drive.